Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Haazinu, Moses tells the Israelites to remember their people's past. Quote, "Remember the days of old. Consider the years of generation after generation. Ask your father, and he will inform you, your elders, and they will tell you." Unquote. He then warns them that prosperity, growing fat, thick, and rotund, and contact with idolaters will cause them to fall away from their faith, so they should keep alive their connection with their past. There's a strong rabbinic doctrine called Yeridat HaDorot, the decline of the generations. It states that because successive generations are further and further away from the revelation at Sinai, their spirituality and ability to understand the Torah weakens steadily. Also, errors of transmission may have been introduced, especially considering that a lot of the laws were oral. Quote, "Moses received the Torah from Sinai and transmitted it to Joshua, Joshua to the elders, and the elders to the prophets, and the prophets to the men of the great assembly," says the Mishnah. Now, the same Mishnah mourns the sages of ages past and the fact that they will never be replaced. Quote, "When Rabbi Meir died, the composers of parables ceased. When Ben Azai died, diligence in studying Torah ceased. When Ben Zoma died, excellence in exposition ceased. When Rabbi Yehoshua died, goodness ceased from the world. When Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel died, troubles multiplied. When Rabbi Akiva died, the glory of the Torah ceased. When Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa died, men of wondrous deeds ceased. When Rabbi Yosei Katnuta died, piety ceased. When Rabban Yohanan ben Zakkai died, the splendor of wisdom ceased. When Rabban Gamliel the elder died, the glory of the Torah ceased. When Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi died, humility and fear of sin ceased. Rabbi Eliezer the Great says, "From the day the temple was destroyed, the sages began to be like scribes, scribes like synagogue attendants like common people, and common people became more and more debased, and nobody seeks." Unquote. The Talmud abounds with statements to that effect. Quote, "The elders of the generation of the Exodus said, the face of Moses was as bright as the face of the sun. The face of Joshua was like the face of the moon. It did not generate light, only reflected it. Woe for this embarrassment, woe for this disgrace, that we did not merit another leader of the stature of Moses." From the time when Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi died, the last three prophets, the divine spirit departed from the Jewish people. Rava Bar Zimuna said, "If the early generation were sons of angels, then we are sons of men. And if the early generation were sons of men, then we are like asses." Rabbi Yochanan said, "A fingernail of the early sages is worth more than the belly of the later sages." Rabbi Yochanan said also, "The hearts, that is the wisdom of the early sages, were like the doorway to the entrance hall of the temple, which was 20 by 40 cubits. And the hearts of the later sages were like the doorways to the sanctuary, which was only 10 by 20. As for us today, our hearts are like the eye of a fine needle." Rav Papa said to Abaye, "What is different about the earlier generations for whom miracles occurred, while miracles do not occur for us?" Abaye replied, "The previous generations were wholly dedicated to the sanctification of God's name, while we are not as dedicated." Rav Sherira Gaon from 10th century Babylonia argues that it is this concern that prompted Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi to write down and codify the oral law, the Mishnah. Quote, "When Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi saw such diversity in the teachings of the sages, even though they all shared the same underlying principles, He feared that the teachings would not endure and would be lost. He saw that understanding was diminished. The well springs of wisdom were being blocked up. It is as they say in the Talmud, if the earlier scholars were sons of men, then we are like asses, unquote. It must be emphasized that the decline refers to the ability to understand the true meaning of the Torah and issue valid rulings in Jewish law. It does not refer to the acquisition of new knowledge or advances in technology. In a nutshell, we know more but are less wise. The practical impacts of this doctrine is that rabbis may not challenge earlier rulings. The Mishnah says, quote, no court may set aside the decision of another earlier court unless it's greater than it in wisdom and in number. If it was greater than it in wisdom but not in number, or in number but not in wisdom, it may not set aside its decision, unquote. Maimonides elaborates and expands, quote, if a Supreme Court issued a decree or enacted an ordinance or introduced a custom which has become widespread throughout Israel, and a subsequent court desires to abolish the instructions of the predecessors and to eradicate that particular ordinance, decree, or custom, it cannot do so, unless it is superior both in wisdom and number. If it exceeds the other court in wisdom but not in number, or in number but not in wisdom, it cannot annul its instructions. Even if the reasons for which the predecessor introduced a decree or ordinance exist no more, the successors cannot revoke anything introduced by the predecessors unless they exceed them, unquote. Regarding that last point, there is unanimous consensus that laws must be observed even though the stated reason no longer applies. Because the stated reason may not be the only reason. Even if the practical reason is the only one, there may still be a mystical one. More generally, the acts of a Sanhedrin can only be changed by a later Sanhedrin of greater authority, and there is no Sanhedrin today. For example, originally 2 holy days instead of 1 were observed in the diaspora, Yom Tov Sheni, because they didn't know when the exact day was and communication with the Holy Land was very slow. Now we know exactly when the holy day is, but the practice remains. The 10 Commandments were included in the temple service and then were removed. The Talmud says, quote, Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, the sages wished to recite the 10 Commandments with the Shema, but soon abolished them because of the arguments of the Minim, the heretics, that the 10 Commandments were the only valid part of the Torah. And later still, more rabbis wanted to reinstitute them, but they were rebuffed. Also, no conversions to Judaism may be performed in Argentina, because in 1927, the rabbi of a Syrian Jewish congregation in Buenos Aires bans all conversion to Judaism forever in Argentina. At Kol Yemei Olam, forever, because observance was too lax. The ban is still in effect today. Candidates for conversion in Argentina must have it done elsewhere. However, in rare exceptions, the practice is changed. For example, the Mishnah says that 3 kinds of liquids become forbidden if left uncovered: water, wine, and milk. The stated reason is that a poisonous snake may have left some venom in them. But Jewish law says that now that poisonous snakes are not found among us, one may drink uncovered beverages. But the Vilna Gaon refused to accept the change. The practical reason for the doctrine is that it ensures continuity by minimizing changes in the practice of Judaism. It is equivalent to the importance of the precedents in secular law. People must know what to expect. People like to say they don't make them like they used to, or bemoan the good old days. We can't help being influenced by surrounding cultures. A significant side effect is that it may promote pessimism and depression. Are we inexorably sinking in an abyss, becoming stupider by the day? Perhaps as pushback, there are contrary opinions. First, the mystics believe the principle does not apply to spirituality. It reasons as follows. There are 2 types of knowledge: nigle, revealed knowledge, and nistar, concealed knowledge. In Nigle, the generations are indeed declining, but in nistar, they are improving and raise us closer to God. From Moshe Cordovero, the Ramak, to Isaac Luria, the Arizal, to the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism, we are making steady progress in mysticism. There's more study of Kabbalah today than in the past because we're on a higher spiritual level and better able to understand it. Hasidic Rabbi Pinchas of Koretz from 18th century Galicia stated that earlier generations may have been closer to Sinai, but we are closer to the light of Messiah. One can ask, is that light retroactive? The Baal Shem Tov is quoted as saying flatly, our period enjoys superiority over those that preceded it. Rav Kook, 20th century chief rabbi of mandatory Palestine, adds, quote, the theory of evolution, which is now conquering the world, is in greater accord with the secrets of the Kabbalah than any other philosophical theory. All of existence has evolved and become spiritually elevated, unquote. Second, history does show improvement. Idolatry, rampant for 1,000 years, has been definitively rejected. Many practices are on hold: slavery, polygamy, sota, captive women, death penalty, animal sacrifices, etc., as people turn more and more to study and prayer. Third, Maimonides frequently questioned earlier statements. Israeli professor Menachem Kellner argues that Maimonides did not subscribe to Yeridat HaDorot. Here are some relevant examples of Maimonides' thinking. What earlier sages said on non-legal matters does not have to be accepted. One example is astrology. He writes, astrology is a disease, not a science. It is a tree under the shadow of which all sorts of superstitions thrive. Only fools and charlatans lend value to it, unquote. He then tackles the thorny problem that many Talmudic rabbis believed in astrology. Quote, I know that you may find sayings of sages in the Talmud and Midrashim whose words appear to maintain that at the moment of a man's birth, the stars will cause such and such to happen to him. Do not regard this as a difficulty. Possibly the matter was hidden from them, or there may be an allusion in these words, or they may have been said with a view to the times and the business before them. You surely know how many of the verses of the Torah are not to be taken literally, unquote. Maimonides was not a Bible inerrantist. He preached that the Torah is not intended to be history or science, but ethical teachings. Quote, in his Guide for the Perplexed, those passages in the Bible which in their literal sense contain statements that can be refuted by proof can and must be interpreted otherwise. Maimonides changed the established practice of allowing converts to say God of our fathers in prayers, which they were not allowed to say up to that point because their fathers were not Jewish. Makes sense. Indeed, the Mishnah in Bikurim does not allow it. The Babylonian Talmud has no Gemara in Bikurim and hence implicitly accepted the Mishnah. But the Jerusalem Talmud allows it. Normally, when the two Talmuds differ, the Bavli wins. But Maimonides ruled in favor of the Yerushalmi. In his letter to a convert named Obadiah, he says, quote, you ask me if you too are allowed to say, our God and God of our fathers, who has sanctified us through his commandments, who has separated us, who has chosen us, who has given to our fathers to inherit a pleasant, good, and spacious land, who has brought us out of the land of Egypt, who has worked miracle to our fathers, and more of this kind. Yes, you may say all this in the prescribed orders and not change it in the least. And his ruling was eventually accepted. Animal sacrifices were mandated in the Torah only because Jews were not ready for more refined types of divine service. Quote, the custom in those days among all men consisted in sacrificing animals. God did not command us to give up these services, for this would have been contrary to the nature of man, who generally cleaves to that to which he is used. Sacrifices, however, are not the primary object of the commandments about sacrifice. Prayers are. To wit, We were not commanded to sacrifice in every place and in every time, or to build a temple in every place, or to allow anybody to become a priest and sacrifice. Only one temple has been appointed, and only, as the Torah says, in the place which the Lord shall choose, in Deuteronomy, and in no other place are we allowed to sacrifice. The Torah says, be careful not to give your burnt offerings in every place that you see. And only the members of a particular family were allowed to officiate as priests. All these restrictions serve to limit this kind of worship. But prayer and supplication can be offered everywhere and by every person. Because of this, the prophets rebuke people for being overzealous in bringing sacrifices, unquote. In conclusion, the rabbinic doctrine of the decline of the generations has contributed to preserving Judaism and Jewish practices and ensuring uniformity and continuity. It should not, however, be used to inhibit necessary evolution or conclude that our mental faculties are diminished. Shabbat Shalom.